Do you recommend to run this analysis off the bike with the prior fatigue, or do you prefer the athlete to be fresh when you do the analysis?
No, there's two things in that regard that I recommend. The first thing is that you need all of the data. So you need to look at what they look like when they're running slowly, because that's how they're collecting their running endurance. You need to have a look at what they run like at top speed, at their peak speed, when they're striding or whatever they're doing, because that establishes their stride capacity. Just like in physiology, you're looking at their velocity at VO2 max and their velocity at lactate threshold. So too, you need to know when that athlete is running fast. You're not going to make him run fast and then take a video. The fastest that athlete does run during training, you want to have a sense of what that is. And then you also want to look at open run pace that is related to triathlon. So let's say Jonathan Brownlee runs 14 flat for 5K. Under normal conditions, what would he run off the bike? So you need both those numbers. You need an open number and you need an off the bike number. And for that, you need some sort of an objective assessment. So it's easy to get the flat running assessment, but it's not so easy to get the off the bike assessment because every bike ride is different.
Yeah, definitely.
So I want to see all four of those paces.
Yeah. It's important.
Yeah, if you look at all animals, all right, they all have three distinct gaits. They can all do some sort of a walk, they can all do some sort of a canter, and they can all gallop. The trouble with endurance athletes is most of their training they need to do at the second pace, which people don't have, called the trot. So you can teach a horse to trot. Some herding animals that are outside all the time and have to run all day, are like border collies and herding animals. They can trot, and so often a runner will come from a power background and not be able to trot. Never learn to trot. It's either canter or gallop or walk. Doesn't have that trot in the middle. So I think that's a key piece when you're looking at that slower pace. Is this athlete cantering at slow pace? Like if you looked at Ronaldo, for example, he can only canter. He doesn't trot like an endurance athlete,
Yeah, it's funny you mentioned that because a good friend of mine works for one of the football teams in Spain, in the first division. And they realized when they asked the players to do this jogging for cool down or warming up, they can't do it. And the muscular damage they get, measured as per the CK, is higher than when they finish the matches. So they were prescribing like 20 minutes easy run for cooling down, but they realized then they injure more because of what they're doing. So nowadays they're just joining on the swimming pool. They go on the spin bikes or on the aqua bikes. So they don't let them run slow because they don't know how to do it.
Yep. Gordo Byrne, good triathlete and triathlon coach, good friend of mine, he used to say, and I love this statement, there is no such thing as an easy run in triathlon. There is no easy running.
No.
Every run is damaging,
Yeah, definitely.
So much better to recover on the bike or in the water. That's a very, very good point. But I think with the elite ITU triathletes and the juniors, you must teach them how to trot.
I do believe it makes sense, especially when we are talking about the juniors, because, 15 years ago, we were picking athletes from different disciplines. Okay, good swimmer there, let's go and pick it up. Good runner out there, let's just try to convert it. But nowadays, they are triathletes, pure triathletes. So it's not excuse of saying, no, this guy, background is, a swimmer, so that's why he doesn't know how to run. I say if we don't do the right things when we work with the juniors or with the youth or with the juniors, we are already limiting their potential in the future as elite athletes. So we might have a Ferrari, but the way we've been assembling the pieces won't be correct, and therefore the Ferrari won't be able to go as fast as should be. So it's kind of
you know, if you look at the sport in general, whether running is the same, you, if you grew up as a track cyclist and then you were 50 years old, you're not going to race on the track anymore. If you were at university and you were a 1,500-meter runner or a 5,000-meter runner, you're not going to run on the track anymore. You're going to go run half marathons and marathons. And I think that what we forget to do with the juniors is take aim at the demands of competition from the start, because otherwise we just create little endurance animals that all go to long course. And so that speed component, that ability to run fast, you know, is very, very important. You know, it's so easy in the lab to see an athlete that has a velocity at VO2 max that is very close to their velocity at lactate threshold. They're ultimately not going to make it.
Yeah.
And that's a mechanical, a large part of that conversation is a mechanical conversation. So we really have to focus on that. And if you look at how the drills that the sprinters and the hurdlers used to do and the long jumpers, and how that crept into 400 and 800 and then later 1,500 and you know, 5,000 and steeplechase. Now the marathon runners are really skilled at doing drills. And you look at all the top marathon runners and you look at all the long course athletes, they all come from short distances now. There's no more finding a 10K runner that's going to run well in a mixed relay.
Yeah, and I think that's... And this is also happening in triathlon, right? Because most of the guys who are dominating the long distance courses have been also really successful in short distance courses. So it's kind of changing the old belief that if you go for long, you don't have to be fast. No, if you were fast in a sprint distance, you most probably will be fast in long course too. So
if you look back in history, you even look at people like Mark Allen. Mark Allen was a very good runner. He was good over 5 and 10K, you know. So even then he used to be able to run, I think, 47, 48 minutes for 10 miles, for 16 kilometers, you know. So they were good runners. and, you know, you didn't hear about it as much in those days. But, you know, they were all, you know, the top guys, Peter Robertson and these guys, you know, they could run sub 30 for 10K, you know. If they had to. So it's very important. And I think people think, you know, you train, the speed will come. You know, you have to pay attention from the beginning. You know?
And you need to train the speed. So you're not gonna deliver anything that you haven't practiced before. That's a quote I'm trying to deliver to all the coaches that come into the courses, because if you don't put this is like cooking. So if you don't put all the ingredients in the soup, do not expect to find it when you're gonna eat it, because it's just not gonna be there. And I just wanna go back to the drills you mentioned, because I don't know if that's personal or not, but to me it really gets on my nerves when I go to the swimming pool and I see all the swimmers doing the same drills, or I go to the track and I see everybody doing all the drills, and then you see them running or swimming, and each of them have different flows in the techniques. I'm always wondering, like, why someone is doing high knees if they actually don't need it, but instead, I don't know, the ground contact time is really poor. Why they are not doing? So what's your approach when prescribing drills and working on those flows?
I love it that you get upset, Vicente, because it is the trait of a young man. You know, you want to change the whole world. So here's my take. I think two very important sets of distinctions to make. You know, the first one is to distinguish between dynamic mobility drills and biomechanical corrective drills. So those are two different things. So everybody can do the same dynamic mobility drills. Some athletes need some of those drills a little more than others, but all athletes will benefit from doing them, whether they're very good or not. All right. And then the second thing is to determine why you are doing the drills. Are you trying to correct the biomechanical deficiency, or you're trying to just neuromuscularly facilitate the athlete and recruit, or are you using the drill to gain some sort of power advantage or some sort of muscle endurance advantage? So there's three things. So let's say I'm doing a harness with an athlete, all right? And I let them do 6 or 7 steps, and then I tell her, right, try this, and then 6 or 7 steps, and then this. That's because I'm trying to correct something. If I say, I want you to neuromuscularly facilitate with a harness, I'm going to do 4 to 6 times sub 9 seconds. That's a facilitation drill. Mm-hmm. Oh, we're going to work on a little bit of muscle endurance with you, or a little bit of potassium pump with you. All right, let's do 8 by 30 seconds harness with 4 minutes recovery. You see what I'm saying? So there's the same drill for 3 different purposes. And I think
same drill, same equipment, but with 3 different purposes.
Yeah. Exactly right. It's so like doing hill repeats. You can do hills for VO2 max. You can do hills for LT. You can do hills for potassium pump, and you can do hills for form. You know, so you can use them for all of those things. And then, you know, you can do 1,600-meter hill repeats for functional endurance, you know?
Yeah, definitely. And this is coming back to what I said about the depends, not that everything depends. When I started this live chats, some of the people who was listening were asking me to bring over some athletes. And I was like, I'm not saying I'm not going to do it, but I'm not interested on what they need to share, because most of the athletes, and with all due respect, they just follow what the coaches are telling them. Some of them know more or less, but some others just follow where it comes through. So to me, what is important is to understand the whys. So I want to have a chat with you, and I want to know why you are doing something. And the explanations you just gave about the drills, it kind of summarized the aim of this live chat, because it's what you said, same drill, 3 different goals depending on how you do it. So it's not only putting drills on the session plan because it has to be this way. No, it's not what we are trying to teach when we deliver the courses. And sometimes you feel like, okay, I'm not trying to change the world because this is unrealistic. But sometimes you wonder whether your approach is perhaps wrong, or I know it's not, but because when I have this kind of conversation with coaches that I consider top, like yourself, I think we are all aligned. So for me, it's kind of a relief, when someone is saying the same message that I used to deliver.
I can maybe add a little something to that, and it's this realization that as coaches, we shouldn't really be looking at normative data. So if I want my athlete to run as well as Eliud Kipchoge, but he has a wingspan of 2 meters, and his legs are only, his inseam is only, say, 29 inches. Well, that athlete cannot run like Kipchoge no matter what you do. So, looking at that, and then not only looking at the athlete as an individual, what is that athlete's cadence? And how can I improve that cadence? Or is it okay relative to only that athlete? And then the other thing to look at in running mechanics, unlike swimming, is that when you're working with an athlete, you want to know what's happening during the course of the run. Because if you're a really good coach, you realize that you cannot give that athlete more than what they had at one point in their life. So somewhere between 13 and 16, they ran as technically well as they are ever going to run. And so your job after that as a coach is to return them to that run. I was working with Flora, and I showed Flora a picture that she knows very well of her running at age, I think she put it on the internet. I think she's running at age 12 or something like that. And her first comment to me was, yeah, and I've tried for the rest of my life to get back to that. So I think that that's very important. And then the thing with drills that people need to realize that if you don't have the posture and you don't have the stability and the balance and you don't have the power, mostly the power to maintain posture, then you can do drills all you like. Certain drills will not make you stronger. You'll just never get the drill. And you said a perfect example. You used high knees. And I firmly believe that only the very best sprinters in the world can actually do high knees. If you want to do high knees effectively, you probably need a harness for every other athlete, because they will do a drill that will make them fit, but will not make them better runners.
Yeah.
High knees is very, very hard to do properly without resistance, you know. And if you do it without resistance and you do it incorrectly, as I said, you will get fit, but you will not run better. In fact, you'll probably run a little worse.
Because the body posture will tend to change, right? If you don't have the right flexibility.
Not only that, but the function. You will primarily focus on hip flexors and lifting your knees, as opposed to focusing on glutes and hamstrings and quads, which is driving the knees down. It's very hard to drive the knees down if you're out of balance. And that means if you're leaning backwards and you're now lifting up your knees, that's a disaster. It's got to be down, you know.
So that's actually, once again, you know, when I'm asking the coaches why do the things they do, and most of them, they don't have an answer. It's just, because we need to do drills. It just drives me crazy. It's like, not really. I mean, you need to do them or not, but you need to make sure everything you put in a paper makes sense. And you are convinced that you are doing it because there is a purpose, there is an aim. It's not just because you've seen a video of Alistair Brownlee doing some kind of exercises and then you have to replicate it because you think it's going to work for your athletes. So guys, because you've been, as I said, you've been longer than any of the other coaches I know around. Do you think the novice coaches are more focusing on coaching the numbers than coaching the individuals nowadays?
Absolutely. I think, you know, I've just got a new book. Where is it? I think it's right under my computer. From Winkelman about coaching language. And it points to this concept of being told by an extrinsic device that you are good or bad, or that you are on pace, or you're too fast or too slow. We know the disadvantages of that, but I think that whatever model the coach is initially taught, that's their safety blanket. And until they have other options to choose from, you know, then they are not going to be capable of looking at a large variety of stuff, because it's unsafe for them. They don't know that. I mean, I listened to a podcast of Joel Filiol, and then I listened closely after that to a podcast by Dan Lorang. And if I didn't know who those two coaches were, I would have thought that Joel is the long course coach and Dan was the short course coach. You know what I'm saying? But only in one aspect, you know, which shows you there's many ways in ITU for us to get this job done. But there's no room for us to make mistakes because we have shorter time frames. So maybe a better answer is that if you are a coach and you in a big city and you in a triathlon country that is really effective like Spain, and you have hundreds and hundreds of juniors that are really excited about triathlon, all right, you can use an eggs against the wall coaching approach, right? You can take 30 athletes and you can push them very, very hard, and 6 of them will be standing after 3 months and they'll be your 6 best athletes.
Yeah.
But you might have lost your Olympic champion at the end of 1 month. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So in triathlon, luckily, the coaches only have small groups of athletes and they know to take care of those athletes individually. You know, so one athlete is powerful and explosive and takes a long time to recover and needs a big taper and can't do a lot of volume all in one go. Another athlete is a diesel athlete, you know, has not got a very high top end, but can run very, very fast for very, very long. And she can be coached differently, you know. So I think I was very lucky in my career that I got two athletes who ran the same distance, 800 meters, and they ran within a second of each other for 800 meters. But the one was an endurance athlete and the one was a sprinter. And the endurance athlete could go and run 21 kilometers in a training run, and he would go 1 hour, 11 minutes, easy, you know, comfortable. The other one would run for 1 hour and need 3 days to recover. So I think you're in a good place if you have two different kinds of athletes, because you learn from the beginning that they are all very different.
Yeah.
Different in the water, different on the bike, different on the run.